Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to our reactions here for Ahsoka. This is our live reaction to episode 4 Fallen Jedi. This was so it was so great. This is so great. We can't wait to talk about all this with you guys. I'm sure you have a ton of questions, thoughts, comments, reviews. All right, let's dive right in. Also, make sure you're liking the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. All right, let's dive right in. We're not going to beat around the bush this time. Let's just go straight to the lightsaber duels, and let's start there. So we have Ahsoka versus Marrok. Who's Marrok? Well, apparently nobody that important. But also, what the hell happened with it? Like he explodes. It's kind of reminiscent of Tales of the Jedi. With that
Yeah,
in Crystal.
exactly. I wanna say it was like Night Sister magic
Could
or
be.
something, right? Like there's it's when people are saying online, some leakers are like, he's literally just smoke. I didn't mean like, oh, okay, like literally, but I guess it
Yeah,
is.
like literal smoke and mirrors. That so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with that. It's that's done now. We don't have to talk about Marok anymore. But what a lightsaber duel, man. And then of course Shin versus Ahsoka. Let's start there. Let's start with those two. That first part before we get into Baylan. What were your thoughts on that first part of the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely enjoyed the fights. I actually enjoyed Ahsoka's. I thought maybe they got a little too self-referential with the Kenobi fight from Rebels there, when she kind of gets all samurai, and it would have been that way for me, except for the fact that Marok just explodes in the smoke, right? So I was like, okay, I wasn't able to like just assume it was that, but otherwise, I liked it. I liked some of the cockiness. I think we've been missing cocky Ahsoka for a long time. Just seeing her like start off with the reverse, then to switching to the regular stance, like a form 4 or form 5 if she wants to, right? And then I definitely like Sabine and Shin. I think I'm liking the rivalry being built up. I did like the little like fake out with when she puts her hand up and she's like, "You have no power," and she's like, "Yeah, I know," and then she just flicks down. I was like, "Yep, that's as Mandalorian as you can get, right? Just playing into someone's hands and then having some convenient technology for that." I liked a lot of the just the choreo, just like how Sabine has to like when she gets thrown into the tree, she has to like flip and like dodge the lightsaber blow. Like it these are two very agile lightsaber users, and even if Sabine does or doesn't have the force, relatively speaking, this is probably the closest we'll get to like a Rebels Clone Wars esque fighting, just because how insanely fit both of those characters are and a very focused in their warfare. The volume just kept going up on my TV. I was like, I
Me
need to
too.
hear everything in that thing.
Oh
Yeah.
man, it was so good. I think there's a really nice balance here between prequel style with the ultra choreographed, the style that Ahsoka's born into of these very stylistically fighting Jedi versus the more original trilogy and then kind of sequel trilogy vibe of Raw, not as well trained, not trained from birth, but picking it up and trying to figure out the ropes. You see that with Sabine, and it's a nice clash of styles between Sabine and Shin. I did love that moment with the wrist rocket things. That was perfect, and it's like Dave Filoni. I don't know why the fandom across the board, I don't think necessarily us, continues to underestimate how well he knows all of us because it's like he purposely does these things in these episodes, right? Like here, you have that moment, you have even the sound effect of like Sabine stretching out her hand, and you're like waiting for it, and then it's like, nope, she's not going to be force sensitive in this moment when she needs to be. And then the same thing with the flip side of Marok. It's like this whole big slow moving epic fight. You're expecting some reveal, and then he's like, actually, I was just teasing you guys for 4 episodes. He's nobody. He knows the way the fandom is going to speculate about things, and he plays into it only to be like, yeah, this is what you guys are thinking. I'm going to change that. Really good action overall in this episode, and I like the layering in the stages of the action where we kind of build up to, okay, Rock's kind of tier 1 in the fight. Ahsoka goes through him pretty easily. I love the Japanese homage to samurai style. Like that for me worked so well in the Jedi in the Mandalorian season 2. Still works great here. But then you climb up to Baylan. So let's talk about Baylan next. Didn't learn as much about Baylan as I thought we would, especially when we get the title Fallen Jedi, especially when this episode seemed primed to be Balin's basically whole exposition. Where is he? What's he from? Who is he? What does he do? But what we got continues to poke at his story, which might not necessarily be important in its backstory, but he is somebody who is a survivor, somebody who's figuring things out as he goes, but ultimately has had his morals and the way he looks at the world changed by the events he's gone through. So that leads us to our big duel. Sonic, what did you think of the confrontation we all expected here, the one we saw in the trailers between Baylan and Ahsoka?
It was ultimately wise not to just be like a huge jump up from those first two fights. If that were the case, then the standard that we'd probably be expecting by episode 7 and 8 would be like past movie level. There was definitely some really cool things. I like the agility of Ahsoka being emphasized here. She does a lot of flips and kicks. She really has power in her body, and that's something I don't think even the Jedi, the episode from the Mandalorian, really got. Like they made her like a spirit, like a ghost that's like haunting this city. The lightsabers are extensions of her. They're just quick swift cuts to like the psyche of these people, right? Here it's like, well, you remember like Ahsoka was just like jumping off of ceilings and like side kicking people from 30 feet up in the air. She still has that in her, right? And I think this was a very nice, subtle piece of just choreography to kind of connect with the performance from the last episode, where Ahsoka kind of relaxes, realizes she needs to help Sabine instead of just dictating everything, realizing that she's always worked better in a team and all these different things. Seeing that then be extended here and having her physical fights be even more like, hey, I remember seeing that in like Rebels in 2014, or like, no, that's 2008, guys. Like that's the Ahsoka I remember growing up with, and I like saying all those things. I just thought she'd fare better. I think she came in a little cocky. That's the thing, right? Once you like finally get back and doing something, and you're like, oh man, it just feels like I never left it. She comes in with one lightsaber instead of two, and I think she's always been way better at dual wielding. There's no point in taking that risk. She was doing fine. Like Baylan definitely fights a lot like a Vader, in some ways more stiff. I think Vader has much more accurate like slashes. Baylan for me feels almost like vertical, horizontal, perpendicular sort of angles throughout the fight, trying to like push the blade's length onto her as opposed to like stabbing and striking at times. And then obviously she grabs the star map and it's burning on fire from Night Sister magic or whatever it may be, just transmitting data. Also probably overheated that thing. But seeing all that, right, and I was like, ah, so that's why her hand is burned. I mean, she fared well for a second there, but it felt like some of the plot definitely felt like it had to kick in there and be like, okay, we need to take Ahsoka out for the story because of what we're doing with Sabine here, what advantages we're giving to the enemies finally. I understood the reasoning, and I think it's going to bring us an Ahsoka that has like a full deep dive into herself, finding out about Baylan and all these different things. It's like she jumped too quickly to the deep end of the pool of being herself, and she paid for it, right? Like there was no reason for her to also drop those things that she learned in Rebel, drop those things she learned when she returned from Malachor and had the whole story before everything that takes place in Mandalorian season 1 and 2, right? That sometimes Filoni definitely takes some of the things that feel obvious and then he's like, I'm gonna just maximize the potential here. But this was like, nope, let's actually connect it to a very high concept that we've developed quite a bit in Rebels and leave people here with a crowd pleasing moment, seeing Anakin, right? And that's, if there's a way to end a duel that she should have been much better for, why not have her old master tell her, come on, Snips, you gotta be a little bit better than that.
I love the use of snips too, like just tying it all together. This is the brilliance of this type of show. Dave Filoni is able to bring things back that he's touched on throughout his entire run on Star Wars, and it's really nice to just have those callbacks. It's something we can definitely praise this show for, and all the shows that Filoni have has been a part of is just the idea of taking words or moments or little pieces of information and sprinkling them through there to where you feel like I'm rewarded now for having watched all of these season 1 and 2 moments of Clone Wars where you get Snips and Sky Guy. Maybe we'll get a Sky Guy name drop next episode. Who knows? Probably. My thoughts generally on Baylan was I thought the fight lived up to everything we saw of Baylan in the first episode of the show, where he is a hulking brute. Like I like that version. A great call to Darth Vader as well, like you were mentioning. I think that is a good parallel, especially now that we're jumping from Baylan's fighting style as Darth Vader. The last person I think I mentioned in predictions, the last person that Ahsoka we've seen really fight who has some actual qualifications to go up against Ahsoka is Darth Vader, whom she lost to with that same kind of fighting style. You could say it was more emotion that's the reason she lost, but she seems to kind of struggle against brutes a bit more. Here, her emotions are played with again by thinking Sabine might die, and then eventually Sabine's back. She doesn't know what to do. She's trying to decide between helping to try to save Sabine, distracting Baylan. There's a lot of different things going through Ahsoka's head that kind of make her lose in this moment. I thought it was all well done, and I'm so sad about Ray Stevenson because he is so great. He steals this show. Like he is the best actor in these, at least the material he's given. He is so much higher than every other performance in the show at this point, and he has such minimal type of non-grandiose dialogue and moments to show off, and he just commands the screen. He's a classic Star Wars villain now. His fight sequences, his dialogue, that moment with Sabine, and that's Natasha Liu Bordizzo's best moment as Sabine so far too. You see everything written on her face. It's so good, and I think there has been a little bit of an element of the show in the first 3 episodes that we kind of set her back a little bit. She's not as powerful of a Mandalorian warrior as she might have been at the end of season 4. You could say that's rust for us, and the plot of the show kind of reintroducing this up and coming Jedi character with Sabine. She kind of has to be set back a little bit in her abilities. But here, this was the most I felt Sabine as the character from Rebels. You get to feel that connection. I love the callback to possibly her family dying in the Night of a Thousand Tears in with the Mandalorians, and a lot of it has she blames Ahsoka for. I can't wait to hear whatever that callback is. I think we'll learn more about that next episode as Baylan seems to kind of be poking and prodding and trying to turn her into a second apprentice. I can't wait to see that rivalry with Shin also blossom. Make sure you check out our predictions. They will be going live on Friday. Every single Friday of every week, we drop our predictions for what we think could happen in the next episode of Ahsoka. Check out all the videos we have going across the board. We are jumping into the Elite 8 of our animated Star Wars character bracket in the community section. Also, if you're just discovering our channel, make sure you're subscribed and hit that like button. Really helps us out. Also, we do have a Patreon and YouTube membership tiers, so if you would like to show your support for our channel, definitely check it out there. We have some really cool, fun ideas for you guys if you do choose to subscribe and support us over there. And by the way, we do have Republic Commando live streams every single week. So if you want to just talk more about Ahsoka, if you want to talk about other random things, that's your chance to come and just ask us anything you want. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.